What's up, everybody? Cole Sands Fishing here. It is March 21st, 2022, and we're going to dive into this week's fishing report. So for starters, this week's report is brought to you by Witch Doctor Tackle Rods. I know y'all have heard me talk about them every week. It's the best rods I've ever used, hands down. Check them out at witchdoctortackle.com. I'm going to talk about some of the rods I've been using this past week to catch a lot of fish. And then the other one is a new soft plastics company I'm sponsored by. That's Fishco. Brand new. They're making some really cool soft plastic baits. They have them now at Dayton Boat Dock, and also they have a website too. So be sure to check them out. I'm going to kind of showcase some of their stuff because in the next couple of weeks, as it warms up and fish are getting ready to spawn, soft plastics are going to be a huge player. So I'll definitely talk about them and showcase some of their really cool products in this week's report and reports to come. So yeah, had a really good week this past week guiding. Had a couple tougher days, but overall, it was a really good week. We caught fish every day. We caught some really big fish, and can't complain about it. So we'll talk about last week. We'll go through each day, what worked, and then I'll talk about what I think is going to work this upcoming week. And as always, be sure to ask lots of questions. Leave them in the comments. I'm here to help you all out, and press the like button, subscribe if you haven't. I really do appreciate it. So last Monday, we're coming off a cold front. It was very bluebird, not a whole lot of wind. And I was a little bit nervous going out there just because, that's not ideal fishing conditions. But we ran around, hit some flats, hit some shell bars, hit some stumps. Couldn't get a whole lot going, but then we got on a little patch of grass. And one thing on a very bluebird frontal day, grass is usually good because you can make fish react in grass. Whereas if you're just fishing a flat, then fish can see your bait coming for a pretty good ways. If you're just fishing mud or stumps or something. But however, if you're fishing grass, you can kind of bury your bait up in that grass and snap it loose, and it's going to jump right in front of the fish's face. They're not going to see it coming, and you can get some fish to react. So Monday it was definitely a grass deal. I had to find some of the grass that was left over. And we had a little over 20 pounds. My client caught his personal best. He caught a 6-pound 11-ouncer, which was just an awesome fish, and it was a good time. Didn't catch crazy numbers. I think we caught 14 fish. Might have lost a couple, but it was a good day. That day we caught him on a jackhammer chatterbait, throwing it around a little bit. We caught just as many on the Yozuri Rattling Vibe and the Mat Crawl. They're eating it just as good. It didn't seem like one was any better than the other. But the biggest one that day actually came on a Ned rig. It was kind of funny. My client, one of my clients in the boat, his arm was in a sling, so he had to throw a spinning rod. And I'm like, well, let's give you a Ned rig with a little, like a little red, half Cinco on or something like that. And he throws out there and catches that giant, in some offshore grass on a Ned rig of all things. So that was pretty cool. And that's a bait that's going to really play in these upcoming weeks. And I'm going to be sure to talk about that a little bit later on. But that giant Monday came on a Ned rig. And then Tuesday, I ventured down a little bit further. I fished the low end of the lake. It was a little tougher bite overall. We didn't get a whole lot of bites, but still had a decent bag. We had a largemouth over 5 pounds, had a smallmouth that was almost 20 inches long, lost another good smallmouth, and put a limit in the boat. Didn't, some 3-pounders. And it was just kind of a tough day. I didn't catch a whole lot of fish, but it was a decent day. The size was decent. It had a couple good ones in the mix, so it was a good day. Same thing there. We caught some fish on a chatterbait that morning, throwing that same jackhammer, a couple different colors. That fire crawl's been good. Golden shiner's been good. I don't know how much the color actually matters. Just, kind of keep it in your hand. It comes through grass really good. So that was kind of a big player that day. And then we caught the 2 big ones that day. Were actually dragging a tube. My client was dragging a tube, caught that big largemouth and that big smallmouth back-to-back cast. It was just kind of a little current scene with a little bit of rock. And then he lost a big one the next cast as well. But so that was Tuesday. Wednesday we had an awesome day. Wednesday it was we kind of had to work for every bite, but the bites we got were really good. We had 25 pounds probably and some change. Had an 8.5 pounder that day that came off the Yozuri Rattling Vibe and Mat Crawl. It was the kicker of the day, but we also had one that was almost 6 pounds, came on that Fire Crawl jackhammer. and had another one over 5 pounds that was also came on that jackhammer chatterbait. Besides that, caught some on the Royal Purple Rattling Vibe, 5/8 ounce. And as far as my setups for these Rattling Vibes and chatterbaits, I'm throwing the same rod on all of these. And that's the 7.2 medium heavy Witch Doctor Tackle Sermon Series rod. It's the half glass, half graphite. Like I said, it's one of the best moving bait rods you will ever throw in your life. Now, if you're throwing a chatterbait, a rattle trap, a spook style bait, something like that, there's never been a better rod invented for that style of fishing than that one right there. Same way with my chatterbait. I'm throwing the exact same rod. It's a 7.2 medium heavy. It's the best grass fishing rod I've ever used, because with that glass, you got the tip to fight the fish, but you got the backbone with that graphite to really rip it out of that grass, get a lot of action out of it. And you know, when I hook a big fish, I'm not scared to put that sucker in the boat with this rod. So that's what I've been using. 16-pound test, Yozuri T7 on all those setups. Sometimes I will go up to 20-pound fluorocarbon, that Yozuri T7 fluorocarbon when I'm in really thick grass. Like when I was in Florida a few weeks ago, I was throwing 20-pound, but out here there's not a whole lot of really thick grass left, so I'm throwing 16. It helps the bait stay down a little bit better. If you're throwing a 20, it kind of, you know, it'll ride high. But so yeah, I mean, that was Wednesday. Like I said, we had 25 pounds. It all came off of a couple different places. We kind of bounced around, hit some grass and some different stuff. Had a couple bites on a big swim bait we didn't hook up on, and caught a few in a trap, and missed a few in a trap, but overall a good day. You know, still caught about 15, 16 fish. Oh, what else we caught some on that day? That was Wednesday. Throwing that Diamond Baits Alabama rig, it kind of it slicked off in the middle of the day a little bit, and I was seeing a whole bunch of fish in my Panoptics kind of sitting over the grass and over some points and stuff. Picked up that Alabama rig with the True Bass swim baits, I think that was the 4-inchers, 1/8 ounce heads, just something really light where I could keep it above the grass. 25-pound fluorocarbon, and caught some fish doing that. Nothing too crazy, but it got some bites during the tough part of the day, and just something maybe to try next time you're out there. And that bite will last probably just a couple more weeks. With that Alabama rig, as it warms up, they kind of get off it. So I'd be sure to get up there and throw it, you know, this upcoming week and the next week while it's still good. And then Thursday was sunny, it was hot, and it was flat calm, not a breath of wind. And kind of the same thing. We had to really work for every bite. Definitely a chatterbait day. I had both my clients throwing a chatterbait, but at the very end of the day, I tried something a little bit different. You know, I was trying to throw in I tried a bunch of different stuff while my clients were throwing a chatterbait just to try to find something. You know, I was throwing a rattle trap, couldn't get a bite. I did lose a big one that morning on it, but then it really died off. My client did lose a giant on a chatterbait that day. But you know, we still had a decent limit and caught, like I said, about 13 fish and lost 3 or 4. But at the end of the day, it was flat calm. It was sunny. I was trying to, you know, I tried throwing a drop shot out there. I tried throwing, you know, slowing down. Tried the Alabama rig. I tried some different stuff, and I just could not get them to react. And I'm like, you know, my clients were steadily catching a fish, you know, about every 20, 45 minutes, somewhere in there, you know, they'd catch 1 or 2 and on the chatterbait, but I was just trying to find something that might have been a little bit better. And then at the very end of the day, I picked up a Hardcore Crank SR65F, which is just their little square bill. And it's a cool bait because it's got a weight transfer in it, which I don't know if you can even hear it, but what that weight transfer allows you to do is really throw it out there super far. And I picked it up to throw it in the grass a little bit just to try something different. I'm like, well, if they're not biting, slowing down, what if I just speed up as fast as I can? And so I sped up, just started cranking this thing as fast as I could in some areas, and ended up catching a few on it pretty quick. So that's definitely going to be something I expand with this week, and see how it does. But, you know, it's just something kind of different when it's flat, calm, and sunny, and you can't get them to react to, you know, something really slow or just a medium pace bait. You know, just maybe sometimes try throwing something out there and burning it as fast as you can. As far as that setup goes, it's the same rod. It's the Sermon Series half glass, half graphite rod, but I throw it on a 610 medium heavy, just a little bit shorter rod. I just, you know, I feel like I have a little bit better control over it. And then 16-pound Yozuri T7 fluorocarbon. I like throwing a little bit bigger fluorocarbon. Excuse me. a little bit bigger fluorocarbon when I'm throwing that square bill, just because, a lot of times I'm throwing it around grass, or I'm throwing it around stumps, I'm throwing it around cover. So I like to have that little bit heavier line so I can really snap it loose of that grass, or, if I hook a big one in a laydown or something, I'm not scared of losing them. But that was kind of my week. Like I said, overall, a really good week of guiding. Had, a 20-pound bag one day, a 25-pound bag the other, and then the other day we probably had a 17-pound bag with our best 5. And then the last day, like I said, was a little bit tougher, but we had 13 and a half, 14 pounds. So it was, a good week of guiding. I look forward to this week, and let's talk about, going forward into this week. The weather looks like it's going to be pretty stable. We're going to have some days up in the 70s. So it's going to be warming up a lot. And what that means is these fish are going to start to think about spawning a little bit. Now, these fish on this lake, they spawn in waves. And from what I've seen, the fish on the low end, from Saudi Creek south, they're the first ones to spawn. And they're going to spawn, back in the pockets around stumps, stump points. And those are going to really start to spawn. And there's going to be different ways to catch. That's one thing about Lake Chickamauga. There's always different ways to catch fish. But you're really going to see soft plastics play. And that's why I kind of want to show you some of these baits that Fishco is coming out with, and has come out with. But there are going to be some really good fish catchers in the next couple of weeks. But for starters, one bait I really like to throw this time of year as these fish are thinking about moving on bed is just a little Ned rig. I usually throw like a 1/6 ounce weight, or even an 1/8. And one of my favorite ones to go to, I think it's a Texas Red, is the name of this color. And it's the Little Deuce from Fishco. It's got green pumpkin on one side, red in the other. Y'all know how good red is in the spring. And that's something I'm just going to throw on a super light head. And, just fish it around, flats, let's say 1 to 5 foot of water. Fish it super slow. It seems like the lighter the head you go with, the more bites you get. And it's also good to fish transition banks. If there's maybe the last steep bank in a creek going back to a flat, those are usually really good places to catch them as they're moving on back. I like that Ned rig probably best when I'm fishing more of the flatter stuff, just because it's a little less, or it's a little more hangy. And then another bait I throw a lot this time of year is just a really light shaky head, or even just a Texas rig. Yeah, that color is green pumpkin Texas Red is the name of it. And that's another awesome bait to throw just on a shaky head. I usually like an 1/8 ounce shaky head, or even a 1/16 ounce. I go super light. I like the shaky head when I'm fishing around a little bit heavier coverage. Throw it around trees, drag it around super slow, rock. And then even as you go shallower around stumps and places you think they might be spawning, a lot of times I just sit, maybe cast that from the bank and just kind of blind cast. Usually use 10-pound T70 Missouri fluorocarbon. And I throw it on a spinning rod, both of these setups. And I also use a 10-pound Yozuri braid main line, connected to the fluorocarbon leader. But those are going to be some really big players this upcoming week as it continues to warm up. There's still going to be some fish to be caught on the rattling vibes and the chatterbaits and the hardcore square bills. So I'm going to push that bite as long as I can, just because if you can find the right offshore place or the right point going into somewhere, man, that's somewhere where you can get right in a hurry. But there's going to be a lot of ways to catch them, like I said. Another bait I really like to throw in the soft plastic category. This is the Fishco 6-inch finesse worm. And what's cool about this one is kind of a little skinnier profile. You just get a little bit better action. But it's hard to beat just an old-fashioned bubblegum, finesse worm this time of year. I throw this, usually on 2 different setups. I'll throw it on a wacky rig, but I also throw it on just kind of a weedless hook. Throw this around laydowns and stuff. You usually get to see a lot of fish come out of these trees and eat. So that's really a cool bait to throw around up shallow. And that's always a bait I'll have on in April and going into early May is that bubblegum worm. Other baits that could work, you might see the swim bait start to play, kind of a mag draft around some laydowns. One I really like to throw a lot, and I'm going to experiment with it some this week, is that true bass with a weedless hook on it. I got a little flashy swimmer on there type deal. And I'm going to be throwing that one around. I like throwing kind of that bigger profile on the main lake. I might, if I'm fishing back in the creeks right now, it seems like the bait in the creek's a little bit smaller. I might go down to like the 4 or the 4.5 inch in the creeks. But I'm going to try that a little bit this week. It's something you throw through trees and get some really big bites. You throw it in grass. Just a very versatile bait. As the water is projected to come down this week, a couple of feet. If it gets all the way back down to winter pool, you'll see some of these main lake bars come to play. We'll probably talk about that some next week if it does come into play. But that should be it for this week, guys. Like I said, that's what we caught them on last week. I think this week it's going to take kind of a mix of the power fishing stuff, the moving baits, and I'm going to definitely have some Ned rigs, some of these Fishco finesse worms tied on, just something to slow down if it's really tough and you don't have a lot of wind. That's a lot of times that's what you have to do. So I appreciate it, guys. Like I said, be sure to leave questions, like and subscribe, and I appreciate it. See y'all next week.